It is a great pleasure for me to introduce you to Kimmy. She was my mentee for this session. Like I had mentioned before, we've been to, this session is pretty short, so just 3 months. And I'm completely blown away by what she has accomplished in such a short time. From having no experience in programming to building a website that explores her interests and uses CSS, HTML, and JavaScript is no small feat. Kimmy is inquisitive. She likes to learn. She likes to learn well. She does not want to gloss over details. Almost every meeting, she's like, every time I explain something, I have a question. That was the most common thing that she said. And she did not want to go to the next step until she really understood. And that's an amazing skill. That's an amazing trait. She's also very diligent and proactive. The amount of work she did in between our meetings is such a pleasant surprise to me. Kimmy, it's been such a pleasure working with you. Take it away.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ira. So Ms. Ira was my mentor. 12 years ago, she founded the Magic nonprofit. She's from India, but she came to the US for higher studies. She's currently working on an app called Socratic by Google, which is for high school students. She is an engineer at Google, and just like me, her two favorite subjects in high school were math and science. The project that I chose was to create a website called Riddle Me This. In my website, I explored what chemistry and criminology have in common. So I started liking chemistry and anything related to science in freshman year. Ms. Rice, who was on the call, was my chemistry teacher, and I just really enjoyed the course, so I wanted to explore more with that. And I've always had a passion for criminology, and I just wanted to see how both of them tie in together, because I plan to major in criminology but have a minor in chemistry. And so to showcase that, I added riddles to my website. My website has a title page that just has all the information about chemistry and criminology, and the rest of it is just riddle pages that are murder mysteries. I just wanted to learn how to code because I haven't had the chance to take any lessons or courses with that, so I just wanted to see what it was like to code. So like I said, I didn't have any experience with coding, so I learned the basics of JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. To learn the basics, I went on Code Academy. So I took about, I think like in HTML, there were like 16 lessons, and that was like the average. And I completed them in one day, each of them, because I wanted to memorize everything, which I'll talk about that later, but it was just really hard. And for references, I used W3 Schools. So a lot of the time we had to go back and look at the coding and just figure out which coding will work for my website. So W3 Schools was just really helpful with that. We hosted my website on GitHub, which was really helpful because it has versioning, which just means that whenever I had a change in my website, I could go back and look at the different versions of it. So let's say I added more coding, I can go back and see what it previously looked like. And that just helped a lot with collaboration, which was also a feature on GitHub, because Ms. Ira was able to go back and look at the coding that I had included and just debug it and see if something wasn't working. And then we would just look at the version that I had prior to that, and we could just fix it and just look at the mistakes I made in order for the code to work for my website. The second technology that I learned, it was Google Meet. I didn't really have to use Google Meet before this, especially before the pandemic. So sometimes there were times where Ms. Ira couldn't go to ODA, or I couldn't meet up with her at a certain place. So we used Google Meet, and I learned how to screen share. The things that I learned in HTML were HTML elements, tags, linking to web pages, and how to load images. In CSS, I learned internal and external style, which is internal style is the styling that is inside the code for the website. So I had the index page, but I went with external style, which means that I have created a separate file where all the styling is and only the style. In JavaScript, I learned how to use conditional if blocks, functions, and arrays, which, by the way, you start counting from 0. So let's say you have a list from 1 through 10. You would only have, in the coding, you'd only have 0 through 9 because 0 would count for the first one. Right here, this is the first page on my website. I have the coding for all the riddles in one file. So I made arrays, which include the URLs for the images and the different answer options. As you can see at the beginning, I have arrays. So I have a total of 4 or 5 different arrays that have the different answer options, the correct ones and the incorrect ones. And I have the riddle image URLs. At the bottom of this picture, I have functions, which were just where I included how to check for the correct answer. So I'll explain more about the way that you interact with the website, but this is the functions that I used for it. And here, this is just the HTML that I had for like the pagination and including the numbers and the on-click, which was just for it to render the page and upload the images, the different images per page. This is the styling that I was talking about where I used external styling, and I just created a file with all the styling that I had for the website. My magical experience was amazing. The highlight was that I was able to be paired with a mentor who's just so flexible and so patient with me. A lot of the times Miss Ira was a very helpful person because I didn't understand the coding or I didn't understand why it was working, and she would help me out step by step, and she had a lot of patience with me. Some of the things that I learned were being able to manage my time. With the pandemic, it was just really hard because I had a lot of homework and a lot of studying to do for like AP exams. And so learning how to manage my time and be able to still meet with her. We met for 2 hours each session. So yeah, I just had to learn how to manage my time. I learned how to communicate better. So I'm not much of a talkative person. I'm really independent. So I worked on my communication skills. I had to practice my creativity and just find a way to mix criminology and chemistry and turn that into a project. I learned how to pay attention to detail. So sometimes I would forget to include a semicolon or just make sure that the coding was the way that it was supposed to be. Otherwise, my website wouldn't work. And patience. So sometimes I would get really frustrated because the coding wouldn't work and I would just want to like turn the computer off and just stop. But I kept on trying and trying, and so the end results did pay off. Okay, it's not going. Okay, some of the challenges that I faced were, like I said, the coding wouldn't work sometimes. I would just like forget to include something, or just the whenever I referenced W3 schools, the coding that they offered just wouldn't work on my website. So I had to go and look for other coding that I could use. At the beginning, when I started taking the HTML and CSS and JavaScript lessons, I just wanted to memorize everything to be able to move forward and start developing the website. But then I realized that you cannot memorize everything. Even if you try, you just can't do that. So that's why we used W3 schools for referencing. Sometimes the internet connection was just so flaky, and Miss Ira would talk or I would talk, and we wouldn't be able to hear each other, and that was just so weird. And we had trouble figuring out if it was her connection or my connection. And a lot of the times we just had to restart the computers, and that took up some time. And like I mentioned before, time management, I got to work on being able to manage my time. So sometimes I would be stuck in like traffic or something, and I just had to reschedule with Miss Ira, and that's when she was like the most flexible with me. So that was nice. Future work. So for my website, I would like to continue adding more information and just making sure that I'm researching exactly how chemistry plays a role in criminology. Because for example, if you want to be a forensic scientist, then there's a lot of like science in it, obviously. And it also deals with like criminology. So that's one of the careers that I could explore in the future. But of course, there's more. I'd also like to add more riddles. Right now I only have 9 riddles, but I do hope to add more. And I'd like to add some animation to it. So instead of them just going to the next one, they would flip rather than just it loading again and just being simple. And for programming, I would like to continue coding. So what a story. When I was in 5th grade, I had the option to learn how to code, but it wasn't coding like with languages. It was more of just like moving around blocks and making like the person dance or something. And so I thought it was too easy, and I didn't like the fact that it didn't challenge me or teach me anything. And so when Miss Iro went to present at ODA about magic, I wasn't sure if I wanted to join magic because I wasn't sure if it was going to be what I wanted to do. And so I took the chance and I joined magic, and it was just great. I'm so glad I got to do it. So this is the link to my website if anyone would like to try the riddles out. And here's my demo. So this is what the information page looks like. I included a picture that symbolizes chemistry. There's the what is chemistry part is information about chemistry, some facts about it, and how it ties in with criminology, and why I chose riddles. So I wrote a little paragraph, and that is my riddle me this button that is on there. This is what the riddle page looks like. I have the title, which is riddle me this. I added some pagination so that if you want to press on number 2, then that'll take you to the second riddle that I included. 5 will take you to the 5th riddle, and 8 will take you to the 8th riddle. And I have the next button and the previous button. So say if you're on page 7, you'll go to the next one. Or if you're on page 5, then you can press to go on the previous one. I included some options for answers. So the way that the game's played is you try to figure out the riddles and you press on an answer that you think is correct. And so once you press on it, you get to see if you are correct or incorrect. So here I chose 6, and the pop-up said that I'm incorrect. And then you would just go on and press OK, and it'll take you back and you can try to answer the riddle again. So then I pressed 10 and it said that I am correct. So that is what it would look like if you were to choose an answer. Then I have the next riddle button and the information page. The next riddle button will simply take you to the next riddle that is after that. And the information page button will take you back to the information page. So that is the way that the website works and the way that it looks. Okay. Thank you for listening.